Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to talk about this spreadsheet that I put together where all these different things are converging on 2024. And I think some people may think that it's silly. I don't know. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a couple new things that we've added to this. This just keeps getting just crazier how everything's like pointing to 2024 with these different things. So I'm going to show you the couple new things that I've added, and then we're going to look at, is there any reason to be doing this exercise? Does it even matter? Is there anything that we can point to that's been said by a general authority that would indicate that we should even look at things this way, that it even matters when it comes to numbers? And, you know, when we're talking about natural disasters increasing, like, has anybody even like said that that matters as far as like general authorities go? And the answer is yes. Yes, there is reason to believe that this is actually a thing. And so I'll show you. Before we get into that, I've updated the Flood the Earth Challenge. We're at 7,315 copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared. So we're closing in on 7,500, which is great. 4 new people have joined the challenge, which brings us to 775. So we're getting pretty close to the next milestone of 700 or of 800. So I'm looking forward to that. And just to be clear, everybody, sometimes this question comes up. So what we're trying to track here is copies of the Book of Mormon, or people meeting with the missionaries, or baptisms as a result of this challenge. I'm not trying to like just randomly count someone that got baptized unless it was you shared a Book of Mormon with them or you shared the gospel with them because of this challenge. Because this challenge is an effort that we're all, you know, joining in on to try and spread the gospel and gather scattered Israel. So if you have like previous shares of the Book of Mormon, or it's not because you were wanting to be part of this challenge, then we're not going to count those, just if you did it because of this challenge. So that's what we're counting, okay? If you haven't joined already, just share a Book of Mormon and then let me know in the comments or send me an email. Keep the message short, just to the number of things that you're sharing. And the number of copies of the Book of Mormon that you're sharing. And then make sure to include hashtag flood, which helps me find your comment or your email. Okay. Okay. So first I got a couple comments that pointed something out. So the first one is from Team T8. Think Celestial was also President Nelson's 111th talk. And then Amanda Leah said, I recently decided that my family will start reading an Elder/President Nelson talk every night until we get through them all. When I got to the President Nelson section of General Conference talks, it showed how many he had given, and the number was 111. When I saw it, I felt like it was an interesting number, seeing 3 ones together. Now, I would agree with both of you. There's actually kind of a phenomenon out there, both inside and outside of the church, where people feel like the number 11 is important in some kind of way. I don't know that it is. I haven't seen anything to suggest that it has any symbolic meaning, as far as like neither in Judaism nor in our church, but it does seem like an interesting number. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. But anyway, I'm taking note of it. There's actually this phenomenon of people where they keep seeing the number 11. And this has happened to me in my life. It hasn't happened for a while, but like if you look it up on YouTube, you can find videos where people are talking about this. Again, I don't know that it's a thing, but I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the list here. So I have that right here in column E, the number of talks as an apostle, and it is 111 talks. And the way that I confirm that is I listed all of his talks. I went to the Scripture Citation Index. Let me pull it up right here. You go down to speakers at the bottom right. In this case, go to N for Nelson. Okay, here he is right here, Russell M. Nelson. And then it lists all of his talks. Okay, so I put them on this spreadsheet to help me count it up quicker, which at first I was just doing with the rows because the rows are already numbered in this very far left column. But I did it both, using the rows, but also this way. So you can see that Think Celestial is his 111th talk. And when you go back in time, this goes all the way back to the beginning. It doesn't include this first talk. The first talk is called Placing Our Homes in Order. And according to this, I'll just show you so you can see it with your own eyes. According to this, he was president of the Bonneville Stake. But I guess he spoke in General Conference, the October 1968 General Conference, because here it is. Okay, so that was the first talk, but then his next talk was April 1984, and that was his first General Conference as an apostle. So going over here, yes, indeed, he has, if you count the Hosanna Shout in this list, then he is currently at 111 talks that he's given. So that means that he's given 40 talks as president of the church, and then 111 talks as an apostle. All this at the same time that 2024 will be his 7th year as president of the church, and he's in his 100th year of life. Okay. We also talked about the fact that he is currently in his 40th year being an apostle. Let me show you how this works. Okay, here I have all the years that he was an apostle, 1984 until present. Okay, now as somebody had pointed out before in the comments, we have to understand this concept of cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers. A cardinal number indicates an amount, how many of something we have. I have 1, I have 2, 3, 4, 5. Ordinal numbers indicate position in a series. So like the order. I think that's why it's called ordinal, because it's the order. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay. So 1984, listen to me. Look at the screen if that's what you need to do. Look at the screen. If you became an apostle in 1984 and somebody was to ask you, oh, is this your first year being an apostle? You would say yes, because you just became an apostle that year. No one is going to ask you, is this your 0th year? That doesn't exist. If somebody has asked you that, put it in the comments below. I would like to know the circumstances under which somebody asked you if you were in your 0th year. There's no such thing. So 1984, most of it, from April 1984 to April 1985, that was his first year being an apostle. Okay, is that clear? So therefore, 1985 would be his 2nd year, and so on. So when you bring it to present, he is currently in his 40th year as an apostle. And then starting in April, he will enter into his 41st year. Now, when you do the math, you do 1984. So you do like 2024 minus 1984. You get the number 40. That's because in 2024, in April, he will now be able to say, I've completed 40 years. It's just like when you're a baby, you're in your first year of life, and then you reach your first birthday. And then at that point as a baby, you can say, I have 1 year. It's a cardinal number. I have it. But before you reach that point, you say, I am in my first year. I have not yet completed it, but I am in my first year. Does that make sense? Okay, it should make sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Look at the screen. I've listed it all out for you. Okay, so that's what we mean when we say he's in his 7th year as president of the church. He's in his 100th year of life. 40 talks, 111 talks. Okay, 40 talks as president of the church, 111 talks as an apostle. He is currently in his 40th year as president of the church, or you can say that he'll have been completed 40 years next year. Okay. We've talked about 2004. We'll actually talk about that toward the end of this video. And now the next couple. So I got an email from Kenneth Stebner, and it says, thanks for all the effort and work you put into your videos and spreadsheets. So I just watched your video where you mentioned this April 2024 conference is on April 7th. President Nelson's 40-year anniversary as an apostle. I was curious to see what day April 2019 conference was, for obvious reasons to those who watch your videos. April 2019 Sunday conference was also April 7th, exactly 5 years from 2024 Sunday General Conference. President Nelson's time is running out. 5-year warning like Samuel the Lamanite. I'm so excited for the Savior to return. I'm not saying it will happen in 2024, but I do feel his return is soon. Ken. Yes, and I agree with you. So, okay, so let's go back exactly 5 years from the Sunday sessions of General Conference, April 2024, which brings us to April 2019 General Conference, and it's President Nelson's talk called Come Follow Me. This was a very, very interesting talk. You know what? I better pull this up. I don't know how I didn't think about doing this. Let's go to Prophets, Talks. So this talk is in the middle of a pattern that I noticed President Nelson's first few conferences as president of the church. His first conference, you see this right here, he spoke 5 times. The next conference, he spoke 4 times, and then he spoke 3, and then back to 4, and then back to 5. So in the middle of that pattern, 5, 4, 3, 4, 5 is the general conference where he spoke 3 times. In the very middle talk was Come Follow Me. And in that talk, first, he brings up Paradise, California. This is a city that mostly, for the most part, burnt down because of a wildfire. That happened the first year of his presidency. And just as a reminder, we had what seems to be possibly a bookend event. If we're toward the end, like if this is like the first event and then you have a corresponding event toward the end of his presidency, we recently had the Lahaina fire. We haven't talked about this in a while, but there's a new article here. This is from November 14th from New York Times. As search for Maui victims go on, which I can't believe that it's still happening, names of dead slowly emerge. And as of right now, according to this, confirmed deaths 100. The deadly blaze in Lahaina started as brush fires and exploded into the town on August 8th, becoming the country's deadliest wildfire in more than 100 years. So you had this that just happened, which very well could be a bookend type event. You have 2 fires that burnt down an entire city, or at least mostly. But anyway, he brings this up in the Come Follow Me talk. He shows a picture of it because we know that when the second coming happens, the earth is going to be burned. And so for those that have eyes to see, maybe that's what he's kind of communicating with this. Like, yes, it did happen, but it may have just been perfect timing. Maybe it worked out in such a way that, he was able to use this as a visual for us to think about the second coming. And then at the end of the talk, this is what he says. Now, as president of his church, I plead with you who have distanced yourselves from the church and with you who have not really sought to know that the Savior's church has been restored. Do the spiritual work to find out for yourselves, and please do it now. Time is running out. Again, you have to watch the video. You have to watch his body language, his tone of voice, facial expression when he says that. He is highlighting that with his body language and the way that he says it. And there's even a pause before he says it. I think that he was being serious. So this upcoming General Conference in April, on Sunday, it's going to be exactly 5 years since he said that. And in the Book of Mormon, Samuel the Lamanite gave a 5-year warning before the Savior would be born into the world. And so that could be a foreshadowing of our own day. And it may not be, and it probably isn't, that the second coming is going to happen exactly 5 years after he said that. It doesn't seem to be the case with Samuel the Lamanite and his 5-year warning, because they were like, they were aware that it was going to be 5 years, but the way that it reads in the Book of Mormon, it seemed like they didn't know exactly what day, or that it didn't happen exactly 5 years afterward, but probably somewhere in the ballpark. And it could be the same for us. And so here we have it. Not only do you have all these things, 7th year as president of the church, 100th year of life, 40 talks, 111 talks, 40th year as an apostle, 20 years since all the disasters really started picking up. But on top of that, we have the 5 years since the Come Follow Me talk. And then, of course, 7 years since the 2017, the other eclipse, the Great American Eclipse of 2017. This is now 7 years after that. So that's, and this is new too. So the new ones are number of talks as an apostle. The time is running out. 5-year warning potentially. And then I realized that I should put the eclipse on here as well. 7 years. These are all very, very interesting numbers. Okay. Really quick, let's review what this one's all about. Column G, 20 years since 2004. President Oaks, at the time, Elder Oaks, gave a talk called Preparation for the Second Coming. He lists the signs of the times. He has not given a talk like this before or after. And from that time, because this was the April General Conference of 2004, from that time, there have been increases in natural disasters, namely wildfires. Okay, let me zoom in here so you can see. See 2004? I don't really have anything before 2004. If there was anything there, well, the record was broken and now it's here. So, for example, Arizona had its largest wildfire, the Wallow Fire, in 2011. And you have all these different locations. And it started essentially in 2004. Okay. We have earthquakes, and if we're looking at the death toll, it started that year. I decided to go ahead and do a line graph for this. Let's zoom in just a little bit. Well, that's maybe let's go 125. Okay. So this is death toll by year from earthquakes. And you can see in 2004, something big happens. There's a major earthquake and a tsunami associated with it that killed 228,000 people. And then you had another one in 2010, 224,000 people. So, and then there was also this year, 2008 was a big year as far as the death toll goes. And then this year with 63,000. So really big, sharp increases in those years, starting in 2004. And then we've been talking about volcanoes lately. I decided to put together this spreadsheet and also do a line graph. And you can see there's a pretty big jump in the year 2004 right here. So look how, like, volcanic eruptions, Look how they have increased. This is the total eruptions for that year. Okay, that's what this is tracking. And you can see from 2004 on, it's definitely at a higher level than the years before. It has increased. I also have another line graph where we're looking at new eruptions by year. So not total eruptions, but new eruptions. And that's even more dramatic because look at this increase right here from 2003 all the way up to 2004. And for this range of years from 1960 until now, that was the highest year for new eruptions. So things seem to have taken off in some kind of way in 2004, at least for some of these disasters. Okay. So that's why I have that on here. 2024 will be 20 years since these increases that we've noticed. Now, is there a reason to believe that there's something to this, that we should pay attention to these numbers? Well, I've covered some of this before on the channel, but let's do it again. This is from Sherry Dew's talk, Prophets Can See Around Corners. It was a BYU Hawaii devotional. She shares an anecdote right here. She says, 2 years ago, I saw President Russell M. Nelson see something I could not see. On September 17th, 2020, I was among those invited to a communications meeting with President Nelson. The pandemic was raging, and we suggested that President Nelson record a message of hope for church members. He told us to sprinkle a little fertilizer on that idea and bring it back to him the following week. But then, the very next day, President Nelson asked our group to meet with him again. He told us that our idea wasn't bad, it just wasn't right. During the night, he had received the impression that he should indeed record a message for the world, not just for members. Now, President Nelson, he receives revelation at nighttime, and we've talked about this before. In fact, so this is Sister Nelson in a YouTube video called My Witness, Sister Wendy Nelson, on the Church News channel. And it is dated March 11th, 2019. And she talks about the fact that he receives a lot of communication at night. She says, I am a witness by being present, and I am a witness by being absent, that the Lord indeed instructs his prophet. Sometimes the Lord has me stay close to my husband when he is receiving instructions. My husband will say during the night, okay, dear, it's happening. I just remain quiet, and then soon he's sitting up at the side of the table writing, now with a lighted pen that someone gave him. It's pretty cute. The number of nighttime messages to him since becoming president of the church have increased exponentially. It's incredible. It was an early Saturday morning, and I could feel I was supposed to get out of bed. I wasn't finished sleeping. I didn't want to get out of bed, but I could feel move out of bed now. So I went down and did some family history research. 2 hours later, my husband emerged from our bedroom and said, Wendy, you won't believe what's been happening for 2 hours. The Lord has given me detailed instruction about a process I am to follow. Sometimes it's just 2 lines. I never look at it. He'll just hold it up and show me. I just think those are private messages to him, and I would never look. So back to Sherry Dew's talk, where it says, during the night, he had received the impression that he should indeed record a message. Okay, he's receiving instruction from the Lord, and then he gives these details. But a message for the world, not just for members. He said his message should be about gratitude and include a prayer for the world. He told us the exact day and time the video should be released, and even how long it should be. So presumably he was instructed to do this. I don't think that he just, was having the feeling like, you know what, I want it on this day, and I think this time would be good. No, the implication is that he received those instructions during the night when he was receiving instruction. Okay, later it says, I had never heard President Nelson be so specific about communication details, but as he spoke, I knew that I was witnessing a prophet act on revelation. We assembled a team of videographers and others to fulfill President Nelson's instructions. If this group had relied on their own expertise, They would never have recommended a video as long as the one President Nelson specified, nor would they have suggested releasing it on a Friday. But a prophet had spoken and we went to work. The result was the hashtag Give Thanks video released on November 20th, 2020. And the result? Unprecedented. The video's reach dwarfed anything the church had ever released, especially to those not of our faith. Never in the history of the earth had so many people heard a prophet's voice. Prophets see around corners. So I'm bringing this up to show you that numbers and timing and days and things like that, they do seem to matter. They really do. We know that in the scriptures there are the appointed times. They're not. Nowadays we would call them like the Jewish feast days, where you had like Passover, you had the Feast of First Fruits, you had Pentecost, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? The appointed times. Time is important to the Lord. Maybe not every single thing is significant when it comes to timing, like when we're like trying to figure things out, maybe we could be off or be paying attention to things that don't matter. But I think that it is sure that timing does matter to him. It really does. So let's read just a couple more things. Let's go back to President Oak's talk, preparation for the Second Coming, April 2004 General Conference. And he says something interesting in here when it comes to paying attention to the signs of the times and adding them up, like paying attention to how much things are increasing. Okay. Because I think some people tend to explain that away, or they think that it's not important, that it's a waste of time. But this is what President Oak says. These signs of the Second Coming are all around us and seem to be increasing in frequency and intensity. For example, the list of major earthquakes in the World Almanac and Book of Facts, 2004, shows twice as many earthquakes in the decades of the 1980s and 1990s as in the two preceding decades. It also shows further sharp increases in the first several years of this century. The list of notable floods and tidal waves, and the list of hurricanes, typhoons, and blizzards worldwide shows similar increases in recent years. Increases by comparison with 50 years ago can be dismissed as changes in reporting criteria, but the accelerating pattern of natural disasters in the last few decades is ominous. And coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, there's this increase that took place starting in 2004 with earthquakes and their death tolls, volcanoes, and everything that we just covered. Really interesting. And then finally, I wanted to read out of the Institute Student Manual for Doctrine and Covenants, section 86. The angels are crying unto the Lord to be sent forth to reap. And this is what it says. In 1894, President Woodruff stated, quote, God has held the angels of destruction for many years, lest they should reap down the wheat with the tares. But I want to tell you now that those angels have left their portals of heaven, and they stand over this people in this nation now, and are hovering over the earth, waiting to pour out the judgments. And from this very day, they shall be poured out. Calamities and troubles are increasing in the earth, and there's a meaning to these things. Remember this and reflect upon these matters. If you do your duty and I do my duty, we'll have protection and shall pass through the afflictions in peace and in safety. And we've gone to the original source before, the Young Women's Journal. I'm not going to do it here, but we've done it before. And then, okay, this is the part that I mostly want to point out. President Joseph Fielding Smith, who was present when President Woodruff talked about these angels at the dedication of the Salt Lake Temple, recorded the following, quote, one day while I was sitting in the presence of my father, President Joseph F. Smith, back about 1908 or 9, somewhere in there, I called attention to these statements of President Woodruff, and I said, I would like to go over the records from the time of the dedication of the temple up until now and see what we can find in regard to calamities, destructions, plagues. And he encouraged me to do it. And so I did. So I went over the newspapers and over the magazines and jotted down year by year the destructions, the commotions among men, everything in the nature of a calamity. And to my great astonishment, each year they increased. And they have been increasing ever since I quit making that record. I was greatly astonished by it, and when I called the attention of one of my neighbors to it, he almost got angry at me, and he said, "Oh well, we have got better facilities now for discovering these things. I don't believe it." And he is a member of the church too, but seemed to lack faith in these predictions. Now, you guys, this is me talking now. I know all of us have experienced this to one degree or another. Please feel free. I'm going to put the link for these in the description below. Copy these quotes. Go to my spreadsheet. They're on my spreadsheet. But copy these quotes and have them ready for the next time someone tries to say, well, it doesn't really matter, when it comes to earthquakes or whatever. You're just paying attention to silly stuff. And no, President Oakes doesn't think that it's silly, and neither does President Joseph Fielding Smith. And when it comes to numbers, President Nelson doesn't think that it's silly. It seems that that's how he receives revelation sometimes, is in specific numbers. So copy this stuff down. Take a note of it so you can refer back to it if someone tries to discredit you. 2 scientists charting the European record find that the index number of wars rose from 2.678 in the 12th to 13,735.98 in the 20th century. That is a sharp increase. Does war tend to decline as nations become more civilized? Many philosophers have said so, but now 2 sociologists of Harvard University have turned the cold and dispassionate eye of science upon the question and have decided that future wars, fiercer than any ever fought before, apparently can be avoided only by a miracle. Far from declining, wars increase in number and intensity as nations progress, and the worst flare-up since the dawn of history has occurred in our own century. Now, of course, he had reference to the war from 1914 to 1918. These scientists are Professor Pitteram A. Sorokin, chairman of the Department of Sociology at Harvard, and Nicholas N. Golovin, formerly lieutenant general in the Imperial Russian Army. They have reached their conclusion through a study of all the wars known to have taken place in Europe since Greece and the Western Roman Empire over a period of more than 2,400 years, from 500 BC to 1925. During this period in Greece, Rome, Central Europe, Germany, Italy, France, Great Britain, Spain, and the Netherlands and Russia, there occurred 902 wars, not battles, wars. And then he goes on and he talks about more numbers. I'm not going to read all this. But yeah, I think that doing our best to try and keep track of these things, I think that it is worthwhile. Joseph Fielding Smith did it. President Dallin H. Oakes talked about it in his talk. And for all I know, maybe other prophets and apostles and general authorities have mentioned this before. If you know of any talk where they say this kind of thing, please send it to me, because I'm actually gonna create a new entry on my quotes A through Z spreadsheet for this times when they've counted the number of disasters and wars and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you just look at this from 1960 until now. These are volcanic eruptions by year, and you can see the trend line. I haven't gotten to that point where I know how to do a trend line. Anyway, the trend line would be something here. Let me do this. It'd be something like this. Okay. Total eruptions by year. That's the trend line, roughly speaking. And maybe not as dramatic for new eruptions, but it does seem to me like it probably trends upwards. Not so much with death toll, but if you're looking at total number of deaths before 2004 and after 2004, that's definitely increased. And then this year in particular has been a pretty deadly year. So anyway, that is it. There's a lot of different things that seem to be lining up with the year 2024. Don't know that it means anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. You know, maybe it'll be early 2024. Maybe it'll be later in 2024. Maybe it'll be in 2025. I don't know. But I think it's going to be an interesting year. All right, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.